Hi there YouTube, my name is Nico and welcome back to my channel. A few weeks ago, I went to a racetrack and I recorded some of the cars driving around the racetrack. In today's video, I'm going to see if we can take those sounds, modify them and build different instruments so that we can make a song. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys what I did, and to enable me to do this song, I had to first off get my video samples and convert that into an audio sample. And I'll show you, I've got my samples over here. These are my audio samples, and I used specifically this one over here. And I'm just going to drag it over to FL Studio and show you what I did with this sample to make this track. So I'm going to place it over here on track number 9. So it's over here. And then what I'm going to do is just mute the other tracks. Okay, and then I'm just going to play this specific one sample, and let's just hear what it sounds like. Okay, so as you can hear, this is a sample taken from the video that I showed in the start of this video, and I had to start converting this and play with this sample a little bit, cut it up into smaller pieces and use specific parts of it. And to do that, I literally went in here and I opened it up into the Edison tool. And with Edison, I can now cut specific pieces of the sample that I wanted. I'll quickly show you how I did that. And to do it, I played it. And then I cut this piece that I selected over here. I cut it out. I select the rest of it, delete the rest of it. And then this little detail over here I'm going to turn off, and I'm going to paste it. Now the piece of the sample that I've just cut is now over here, and you will see that my looping function is on, and what's going to happen now is it's going to loop this sample over and over and over. Now I know it will sound a little bit irritating, but this is basically how we did it. Okay, so now I've even isolated a smaller piece than I did previously, and I'm going to paste that one now, and it will start playing immediately. As you can hear, the sound is not completely one tone yet. It's a longer sample than what you expect a normal sound to be, like a drum sound or something like that. So we're going to have to cut it even more. But before I cut it, I actually want to see what is the tone of this sample that I have in here right now. So I can do that by checking out the regions and do a pitch regions view. And that will show me in what key this specifically is. And over there you can see it's now in a F#2 key. Now, that helps me later on to determine which note I should use as my root note. And I can now start refining this even more. And cut that little piece. Okay, so now we'll hear the sound is more monotone at this stage. Now you can start cleaning up this little bit. It doesn't have to look as ugly as it's looking right now. And you can just basically go to what they call zero crossing points. Now, zero crossing is just basically where the samples, these waves, get back to this middle line over here. You want zero crossings. So if I'm looking at this, I look at where is the start point over there and when is the end point over there. And maybe this sample is going to be worth a little bit more to me as is right here. Then I can zoom into these areas. And if I zoom in even closer, you will see that some of these points don't really get to this middle line. So what we do is we select that part over there, the highlighted part, and we can fade it in so that there is a zero crossing point from the start. You'll see that those 2 points now go towards the middle there. And I do the same thing right at the back here. You will see these don't really end up right at the end or in the middle at the end part of the signal. So I'm going to take that little bit there and do a zero crossing point towards the end of it. And now when I play the sample, let's just fade it out again. It's not going to sound much different to us listening to it, but it will make a difference in when you start making an instrument actually from it. Okay, so that is the first step in how to actually create your instrument, is to start doing this. Now, obviously there are different techniques of doing this and different ways of making it better. This is just a quick show you how I did it. From there, I'm going to drag it into our channel rack over here. So from Edison, I'm going to select it, drag it into my channel rack. So my sample is now lying over here. From here, I can now start and edit it a little bit. So I'm just going to close off a little bit. I can actually delete this sample now because I've resampled it already. So if I delete it, it doesn't really matter to me at this stage because I've got my sample right here. So now I can start playing around with this sample a little bit, and I've already got my MIDI keyboard connected, so I'm just going to connect my keyboard here with the software, and if I play a tone on my keyboard, you will hear that the sound actually changes. So if I'm playing a middle C, for instance, that's a middle C, and there's a C lower and another C lower. So now we have that, and I can actually view those keys over here. Now, this is why it's so important to actually know what tone your sound is actually in. So I can go edit it up again, open it up in Edison, and check this region again. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to right click on it, and then detect pitch regions. And now it is showing me that it is a C0. So if I make this a C0, which is all the way here at the bottom, and if I right click, you will see that C0 is now highlighted. And that doesn't really sound right, does it? However, if I make it a C3, let's hear what it sounds like. Or a C4 or a C5. Let's see. Okay, so now that is how we actually have our tones that we now can select. But now I have to start playing around with the envelope over here, and you will hear how the sound is starting to change. So that's what it sounds like right now. I'm just going to change this even a little bit higher so I don't have to stretch too much here. Okay, and now listen what the sound does. So you can see as this is going up, it is basically fading up the sound. So if I change the attack to immediate, that is an immediate loudness of the attack. And then of course this is how long it will keep that note, and then how quickly it fades out and releases and sustains the note. So I can change that holding pattern, and let's start off with the drum sound. So if I want to make a drum sound, that is the first thing I'm going to do. So I don't want to keep it too long. So I want to have a short note over there, because from there I'm now going to change its pitch and so forth. And sorry, next thing I can do is actually changing the pitch. And for a drum sample, for instance, you want to actually change this pitch quite a lot to the bottom, and over here I can change the range even more up to 12, which is 1 octave. So now you can hear it's a nice low sound. And if I play around with this a little bit, I'm pretty sure we can make this into some sort of a drum beat. That's the first step in doing this. The next thing to do is to then assign this to a specific channel on your mixer. So I'm going to use channel 10 just for this specific case. And if I now have assigned it to channel 10, I can go to my mixer channel 10. There it is highlighted already. And I can now start to add some sort of effect panel to this. And over here, one of the effects that I used was Maximus, which is basically a bit of a compressor and equalizer built into one. And there's a few presets on this that you can actually go and select, and you will see there is, for instance, punchy drums. And it will change all of the parameters over here, so that when I press this button now, or this key on the keyboard, so you can hear that is already sounding much more like a kick drum. I'm just going to select kick pump. Okay, so I already have a little bit of a kick drum going over there now, but I'm not happy with that yet. So I start playing around with the equalizer settings here a little bit. Okay, and then from there I can start adding some other effects, like a little bit of a reverb. And it's interesting that these work in a specific way over here. All of your effects that you add to a channel start from the top and it works its way down. So if I want to record a sample, I have to place the recorder right at the end of all of these samples so that it goes through all of them so that I record all of the effects. If I place the recorder in a different level, it will only record what is in front of it. And that is one of those handy tips that I learned later on, unfortunately, but yes, at least I know it now. So now we've added a little bit of reverb to it. Let's hear what it sounds like. A little bit too wet there. Okay, and then after the reverb, I can add another one over here, which is called our wave shaper. And the wave shaper can help me to give a little bit more contrast to it, basically. So let's hear what it sounds with the wave shaper. So without changing anything, there's our drums now. And if I start changing this, okay, and there you have a drum set. So our drums sound like that. So I can now record those drums using Edison, and I'm just going to say on input, stop. And now I can actually take away all of the pieces on the sides by selecting this, and this is now my drum loop. And I can now take this drum loop back to this thing. And now our drums will be in here. Okay, so guys, that is how I made the drum sounds. To do the snare, I basically just took it up a few octaves and played around with different other effects with it. And then, of course, I had to make the synth and the bass lines. So the bass line I made from the drum kick itself, actually. So I used the drum sample, this one that we have over here, and I then edited that drum sample to make the bass sound. From the bass sound also came, from the drum also came the snare, and then I also used the sample that I started with to make synth 1, bass synth 1, and the bass line 2, not the bass line, another synth as well that wasn't used. So all of the sounds that you will hear in the song was actually made from that one sample, and they all came together. I'm just going to delete the stuff that I don't want and turn back on my samples. So here's my tracks turned back on again. And just to show you what happened with bass synth over here, for instance, if I open up the bass synth 1, there is the bass synth. So what I did with this one is I changed a little bit around with the pogo, and if you see, the pogo is over there, and then I've also have my in and out faders, and I used only this back part of it, and I looped it constantly using a loop point. And then I added a few different effects to it and an arpeggiator. Arpeggiator. I don't know how to say it. Arpeggiator. So the arpeggiator will give us this type of sound here that I can actually change according to the chord that I want. So I have it on auto. You can select any of these different types of chords over here, and it will change according to, let's say, for instance, that one. Or if I select the minor scale. And it will change according to each one of these different types of scales. So I just had it on auto, and I changed a little bit on the echoes and some of the trackings and stuff like that I've changed around with. And then, of course, I added some of the effects again to that. So bass synth 1 was on track 2. So if I go to track 2, you will see that I've got the wave shaper and a parametric equalizer over here as well. And the wave shaper looks like this. So they all came together to make a specific sound for me. And then, of course, the other samples that I have was the melody over here. So my melody was my synth 2. So if you listen closely at the lower notes, you will actually hear that engine sound quite nicely that we started with. So all I did is I used the higher ends of the register and again changed a little bit on the sounds and the effects, and that is how I got this specific synth sound that we have here. Okay, and then the bass line I used the actual kick drum and just edited the kick drum itself to make the bass sound sample. This is what the bass sounds like. Very, very, very low bass, deep bass. So I had to actually work a lot with this one to get it right, because you don't want it to overpower all of your other stuff. So I know about side chaining. Side chaining I didn't really use in this specific video, but in the next video we might explain side chaining a little bit better as well. Okay guys, so if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button and the subscribe button and leave a comment in the section down below. And the song will start playing in 3, 2, 1.